This podcast is not intended to provide any investment advice. The opinions expressed here by either the hosts or guests do not necessarily reflect the views of PSA, Collectors Holdings, or any of their affiliates. Any discussion of collectible values in the past or present is not a guarantee of future performance.
Hey everyone, Ryan Green here, and today we are back with another installment of guest submissions here on the PSA Pod. Guest submissions features in-depth hobby conversations. We'll be welcoming a variety of guests into our studio, from prominent expert leaders within the collectors family to respected hobby voices and personalities across all genres. The goal is to inform and entertain from several different angles, whether it's discussing product developments and enhancements that improve the PSA customer experience, or just simply talking shop and collecting from different perspectives. Collectors of all levels and experience will enjoy what lies ahead. Today, we welcome a pair of guests to the show, both prominent figures in PSA's efforts behind our rapidly growing footprint in the pop culture and TCG space. We're joined today by Elizabeth Gruene, General Manager of Pop Culture at PSA, and Roxanne Ghezzi, Senior TCG Specialist here at PSA. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Appreciate having you here.
Good to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
So we love introducing new voices to our audience. I mentioned expert leaders at PSA within our organization, and you two obviously are very prominent in that, especially on the pop culture and TCG side, as we mentioned. So to get us started, this is kind of tradition with new guests here on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, what you were doing before you came to PSA and Collectors, and what your role today within the company involves.
Yeah, I can get started. My name is Elizabeth Gruene, and as you mentioned, I'm the general manager for pop culture here. I was born and raised in Seattle, and that's kind of my roots. So kind of where I started out. And then from a career standpoint, I started out after college at Abercrombie and Fitch. Actually, I was in fashion merchandising there. It was awesome because I got to own my own business right out of college and work a lot with, different parts of the business, whether that was marketing or finance or design, and kind of got to build my own product assortment that went into hundreds of stores, and was just a great way to kind of cut my teeth and learn general business management. And then from there, I actually went to Amazon, and so got in at Amazon at an awesome time when they were growing like crazy, and started out on the music business there, working with different record labels and managing licensing agreements and their terms, and selling physical music on Amazon.com. So like CDs and vinyl records.
Oh my God, CDs.
Yes. You wouldn't believe how many CDs still get sold on Amazon. It's crazy. So yeah, that was another really good experience. And again, with kind of just like general business management. And then shifted more into true tech, working on the Prime program at Amazon. And then my last role there was managing all kind of product and tech for Amazon's Canada business. So I was there for 7 years, and got to do a lot there. And but it's a huge company. At the time I was leaving, it was massive. And so I was excited to kind of join a smaller company where I could use what I learned and have a bigger impact, and also kind of wanted something that had more of like a startup culture. And so I met Nat and Ryan Hogue and a bunch of people down here. Had also relocated down to this area, and got to tour PSA, and it was amazing, and just such a cool opportunity to kind of come when this company was transforming a lot and having kind of this digital transformation, growing like crazy during the COVID times, and becoming super prevalent in the collecting space, and reaching new customers, and just felt like a super unique opportunity to jump on board. So I started off again more on like the tech side. And so I was working on everything from like our grading software that our graders use, to our warehouse management system in the vault, to our mobile app, and starting more like with that tech side. And then more recently, late last year, I joined the business side here at PSA, leading our pop culture vertical. So that's like a newer role for me, and I'm loving it so far, and just super happy to be here at Collectors.
So I'm Senior TCG Specialist Roxanne Ghezzi, and During my college years, I actually worked for the Florida Office of Financial Regulation in communications. So we'd put out consumer alerts on Ponzi schemes, like working in anti-fraud. And then after college, I moved to Japan for 4 years. I was an English teacher on the JET program. I lived in a very small town, or city rather, called Garo City in the Hida area, which is in Gifu Prefecture. It's very agricultural, so there's not much there. I was probably one of like 4 foreigners that lived in the entire city. And I taught kids aged 0, like kids crawling on the floor, don't even speak Japanese yet, all the way up until 9th grade. So it started just like reading books to them in English, and then, up until 9th grade. So it was one of the best experiences in my life. That's where I really got back into collecting. And so, but yeah, I lived there for 4 years. I came back, and then I was a teacher for middle school and high school for a little bit. And this is around the time of 2020 when PSA was growing and expanding, and they really needed a lot more TCG expertise. And so I came along. I worked in pricing, and then from there I started one of my bigger roles with product integrity at the time. And so kind of comes back to my experience working in anti-fraud for the state. So, but yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of my background.
It's kind of funny. All 3 of us sort of found our way to this company during the time when things were really booming, and this company really transformed and started heading in a new direction, which I like to hear that, especially when people came from all kinds of different backgrounds and found their way here. So another reason a lot of us found our way here is because we love collecting. So on the personal side, tell us a little bit about your collecting stories and what it is you collect, what you're really into, and just kind of what really excites you about the content matter we get to work with every day.
So for me right now, I'm super, super into Disney Lorcana. I think everyone here at the company knows that because I'm kind of obsessed. I'm really enjoying it just because it's a brand new TCG. It just launched late last year. And so for me, like I was excited to get on board and kind of be an early adopter. I played a little bit of Pokemon as a kid and collected Pokemon. But with Lorcana, I like committed myself to like actually playing the game and like wanting to be competitive and do tournaments and things like that. And so it was nice that it was brand new for everyone. And so it was an even playing field, and I didn't have to like catch up. Like I could kind of join in from the start and was going to my local game shop here and playing and joining league and playing online on Pixelborn and like, strategizing my deck for my deck strategy and things like that. And so, it was nice that I didn't feel like behind and like could kind of just jump right in and make a lot of friends and meet people and share that passion as we're all kind of learning together. So it's been really fun and rewarding to actually be on the player side, but then also I love collecting it and have graded a ton of Lorcana cards, especially like the more rare and valuable ones and ones that I'm not like putting into my deck, but it also has been like very eye-opening in terms of like deciding like, okay, what do I get graded versus what do I want to play with? And like that debate can be challenging sometimes. So yeah, I have a lot of empathy now for people who play and collect TCG cards because there is that playability aspect of these cards and they actually have purpose outside of just collecting. And so, yeah, it's been really fun. I'm just like a huge Disney fan in general. And we have like the annual passes and go, and my daughter loves Disney music and the characters. And so it's been like a fun family thing too, to kind of all get into that. But then other than that, I kind of collect all pop culture items. Like I've definitely been collecting again on the Disney theme, like Disney Funko Pops. I mentioned I'm a Seattle girl. And so I do collect some sports, like, but specifically Seattle sports. And then like more kind of weird niche TCG things like Hanafuda cards I'm really into. I just got some Disney Hanafuda cards actually in Japan, which I'm pumped about because I don't think anyone's graded those. So that will be cool to kind of like set the population report. That's for awesome. That. And then I also got some One Piece Hanafuda cards in Japan that I'd never seen before. So trying to
you are all in
push our boundaries on like kind of weird niche TCG stuff that we accept here for grading.
Love it.
I love it too. So a lot of people know I'm like really into Sylveon, of course. So, I mean, I've been collecting since I was like, I would say at least like 5 or if not younger. I still remember coming home from elementary school and seeing the first Pokemon theme song on the TV and my brother watching it. And I just, was hooked ever since. So But I really found my love of collecting, actually, crazy enough, like not even through cards, but through the Pokemon video games and playing it competitively. I'd been a competitive player in the video games, more so back when I was in like high school during like the black and white up until, Diamond and Pearl and black and white eras was when I was really competitive. And so, and I always liked collecting the cards of the Pokemon that I played with. That was always my favorite thing. So that's why I always liked Shining Charizard a lot, because I always had one on my team. But when I was living in Japan, I really kind of rediscovered my love of collecting, because I started to get back into competitive Pokemon playing, and I started to play Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon competitively. I was going through an entire team of EVs and, like evolutions like Flareon and such. And so I always never really liked Sylveon. I thought it was like the dumbest thing ever. It was like, why would they make a new EV? And then my friend Thomas actually challenged me. He was like the only person who could really beat me at the time. And so he was like, well, if you don't play with Sylveon, you're not a true like Pokemon player. And I was like, all right, bet. So I played through it and I actually whooped him with it. So ever since then, it was my favorite. And I started collecting PSA graded Sylveon cards since then. So, and then from there, I've now started dabbling like Elizabeth into One Piece, mainly the main Bandai TCG. I'm a huge Trafalgar Law fan. So I always have been. I have like 2 tattoos of it. So
you're obsessed. I feel like you're underselling this.
I really am. I'm very obsessed with Trafalgar Law. So I'm like very excited with the Bandai TCG, because like before it was all card ass One Piece stuff, which is cool, but definitely not the same as Bandai. So it's like really exciting to actually see like a TCG being played like for One Piece, and like to see how big it is. So I've been really dabbling into One Piece recently.
One Piece kind of feels very symbolic of what's happening not only in the collecting space, but here at PSA within the TCG and pop culture space. It's become such a growing category, and I believe it's now our number 2 most submitted month over month category behind Pokemon. And this kind of leads into the next question, Elizabeth, talking about your role in particular. As you mentioned, this is a relatively new role within the leadership org here at PSA. So how did a specific vertical within the company focus solely on TCG and pop culture come to be, and what drew you in particular to the opportunity that came about?
Yeah, it's definitely like an emerging area, and something that did not exist, before I took on this role. So I'm kind of building the roadmap as I go and setting out our strategy and trying to just put more focus and thought and plans around the pop culture space, which I think is super important. Kind of like you were mentioning, even just a few years ago, TCG and pop culture was like 10, 15% of our submissions that we got, whereas last year it was 40%. And so it's growing exponentially, and like I think it's going to continue to grow and potentially be even bigger than sports cards eventually as a whole. But even looking just at like an individual sport, an individual category level, Pokemon, we get more submissions for Pokemon than any single sport, here at PSA now, which I don't think a lot of people realize. Or maybe they're starting to realize it, but yeah, like we get more Pokemon cards than baseball cards or basketball cards or football cards. And so historically, we're professional sports authenticators. I think people definitely identify the PSA brand with sports, but we have some work to do, I think, with pop culture, and really like we are the leader in pop culture, but I want to like speak to that customer base more, cater to that customer base more, and really establish ourselves even more as the leader so we can continue to grow this space. I think one thing we've also learned is like they're pretty different customer bases. There isn't a lot of crossover. So people tend to either collect sports or they collect pop culture. They don't do a lot of both. And so, again, I think there's like a different strategy, a different way we message, a different way we approach and talk to the pop culture collectors versus maybe the way we've always done things historically on the sports side. And so I think definitely our leadership team has seen that need, and they knew that this was something I was passionate about. It was a community I was part of. There's other amazing people like Roxanne and others here at the company who are passionate about pop culture. So we've kind of built this team within the company now that's fully focused there, giving it the attention and love it deserves, and starting to be really strategic about how do we, really cater to those customers who are in the pop culture world and make sure it's like the best experience for them, and that we continue to grow this space. So there's things beyond TCG cards. That's definitely the biggest chunk of the pie, but we also have WADA, we have Funko Pop grading, new verticals that we're working through. And so my vision is really to grow out the entire pop culture space and be like the best destination for pop culture collectors.
It's funny you mentioned that about how it overtook our sports categories month over month. And I mean, it wasn't really that long ago. I want to say it was either late 2021, early 2022 when Pokemon had its first month where it was the most submitted category to PSA. And I kind of remember the vibe in here just being like, whoa, really? And you know, I think at the time, no one really knew if that was just going to be a one-off, if it was going to be kind of a blip on the radar, but now it's the case every single month. Like it hasn't changed. And I think with that, you know, Roxanne, you've been with the company for a few years now and you're intricately involved day to day on the operations floor, on the TCG side of the business. Has the growth of TCG submissions and Pokemon's dominance among the grading categories surprised you in any way? I guess what have you noticed in recent years within that community that you think has maybe spurred increased submissions for grading to PSA in a category where it used to be so play heavy and now it almost seems like the two sides of collecting versus playing have, I don't know, I guess you're the expert on this. Have they balanced out 50-50 or how do you see it?
I think it's interesting. It definitely has surprised me, I would say. And I think it varies by TCG. Like when you look at something like One Piece, I think it's like the first time I've ever seen something where it's like so heavily played and so heavily collected that you have players and collectors competing over stuff so much that it's becoming like outrageously overpriced. And then, you know, Pokemon might be a little different in that I think Pokemon might be slightly more collected than it is played. But I think the major spur for like TCG kind of blowing up in general is really like post COVID or during COVID. You know, a lot of people were out of work. A lot of people were home. They needed something to do. A lot of content and content creators rose out of that. People had money that they could spend on things that were nostalgic to them. And I think even without COVID, this growth would have been a bit organic in the sense that you have people that are like me in that they grew up with this when they were like 5 years old that are now, you know, older, have expendable money. And so I think that it's kind of a little twofold. I think it was boosted because of COVID, but I think this growth would have been somewhat organic already. But it definitely has surprised me. I think it's like interesting to see where a lot of like this growth has gone, especially in like categories like error cards.
You know, with this growth has come us dedicating more resources to connecting directly with TCG and pop culture collecting communities. So, Elizabeth, what have been some initiatives that you've been most excited so far about in your role? Because, I mean, we've launched so many new things just in the matter of a few months, and there's so much more to come. What's really kind of been the pieces that you've been most proud of to this point?
Yeah, I think the big one I want to hit on is we just launched actually this month our dedicated pop culture and TCG magazine for Collectors Club members. So now when you have a Collectors Club membership, you can decide, do you want to get the sports magazine, which will be now, you know, fully catered to that customer base. Again, we know there isn't like a ton of that crossover. And so they were getting little spurts of, you know, TCG content before, but now it'll be purely a sports magazine. And then we have now a dedicated pop culture and TCG magazine that will be exclusively that type of content, and really be like a destination for learning about pop culture, doing profiles on big collectors, talking about, you know, new categories we're getting into, doing profiles of different, you know, manufacturers, different TCGs, talking about Funko Pop, WADA. I think it'll be just an awesome resource for us to have to flex our expertise and our knowledge and all the experts we have in-house and also, you know, external people who can come and do really interesting articles and pieces for us. But I'm super excited. The first issue looks amazing. And I know we have some really, really exciting stuff planned for the magazine and some stuff that we've never really done before with the sports magazine before. So definitely highly recommend choosing the pop culture magazine if you're a Collectors Club member. It looks awesome. So that's brand new and like just shipping out this week. So excited to see how customers respond to that. I think it'll be big.
I think one of the coolest things about the magazine and the TCG and pop culture magazine falls into this too, is that it's become a collectible itself.
Yes.
And I mean, we're kicking that off with the first issue, right? You have the 4 different covers. You have Venusaur, Blastoise, and Pikachu as the base covers, but then you have the Charizard chase cover numbered out of 1,000. You have the what is it, the Heat Wave?
Yes, I need to get my hand on one of those.
Have you set up the eBay searches already?
Oh yes, yeah. Oh yes. I need to. I need to catch them all. I need to get all of them. I have 3 of them, but I don't have any of the Charizards yet. I know, but yeah, I agree. They definitely are collectible, and like they're beautiful artwork in themselves. And I think we know that there are people out there who already are kind of collecting our magazines because they just visually are so cool and super, super well done. We've actually done even more too to improve the quality and the kind of look and feel of our magazines. So it's really exciting to see it out in the wild, and I think people are going to love it. And again, we have some really, really cool content and articles and things coming down the line later this year. So excited to continue pushing that. And then I think the other thing from just like connecting with the community marketing standpoint that I'm really excited about is tapping more into that player community. Like we were talking about, I think TCG and this category is just so different in that there is this like player side, and we haven't really spoken to that community directly before. And so we're starting to build relationships with prominent players. So Tord Reklev, he was the runner up for Pokemon Worlds last year. He like came out here and we got to meet with him, and he graded his prize card with us, which was amazing. And so I think tapping more into that community and getting them excited about grading their prize cards or their trophy cards or, promo cards they get, and wanting to preserve, special cards that they played with when they won a tournament or things like that. And showing the value we can add in terms of like protecting those special items. I think there's a lot we can do there. We've also thought about like TCG accessories and how we can, again, just like cater more to that TCG playing community, which we historically haven't really reached into. So I'm passionate about that. Attending tournaments, making it easy for players and like attendees of events to submit with us and get stuff graded. Just being out there more. We're going to do a lot with events in general this year, more pop culture type events, not just, the national and the big sports card shows, which we do an amazing job at, but I want to like broaden that and have more of a presence at pop culture shows and like make more of those face-to-face connections with customers. I think that goes a long way. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. I think, again, it's something I hit on a little bit was like new category growth too, and trying to stand up whole new verticals as well as another thing that I'm excited about this year.
I love the lean in on the playing community, and it's not us serving one to take away from the other, because on the collecting side, Roxanne, one thing I really wanted to highlight is we have a continued focus on expanding what we grade within TCG categories like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all the way from errors to that PSA now recognizes and beyond. A ton of research and work goes into this before we're able to turn the lights on and start grading some of these. What have been some of the new subcategories that you've been particularly proud of that we've gotten off the ground and started offering grading on?
Yeah, like you mentioned, like really excited about error cards. I think that in test and proof cards, or prototype rather, and proof cards, because test cards can be both of those things, but have been so exciting for us to see us do, because historically PSA has not really dived super deep into those things on the TCG side. But now that we have teams dedicated to this stuff, it's really exciting to see us do it. When I was younger, I always loved dinosaurs, wanted to be a paleontologist, finally feel like I am one. But that's really why I like this stuff, is because it's like, it's really a deep dive. I mean, this stuff is very, uncharted isn't the right word for it, but a lot of this stuff is very user kept in TCG. There's no like published source for this stuff. And so I think it's really exciting to see PSA like go the route of being the people to publish this stuff. And I think we should, as the leader in third-party authentication. We have to make those tough calls. And I think it's really fun to, take the unexplored and explore it and find things that make sense and, connect the pieces and the dots. And I mean, it honestly, it really gives you another side of the narrative, when you're looking at, TCG manufacturing and what happened in the day and a long time ago, and why certain cards are the way that they are and how printing works. And so to me, like error cards and test cards are some of the most interesting, because there's just no like source for all of these, and new things come up all the time, especially in errors. Like there's cards out there that have texture on them and they're just completely missing the foil layer. And it's just like so cool to see that stuff because it's just so rare. So I definitely think like error cards are just such an interesting, because it takes like a very intricate understanding of not just one TCG, but many, because there's errors that occur in Yu-Gi-Oh that you can reference in Pokemon, right? Because printing's printing. It's not like, Pokemon cards they may be printed in different facilities and they may have different ways that they print them, but ultimately printing's printing. There's a white opaque layer, there's different layers on top of that layer, and shifting and foils occur the same way in Pokemon that they occur in Yu-Gi-Oh. So, like knowing different methods of printing and intricacies across TCGs, it's just so interesting for me to connect the dots. But yeah, that's definitely the two that I think are the most interesting categories we've explored.
And on one thing you hit on there, I definitely want to shout out some of those resources that, your guys' team has helped lead that we've now made available on psacard.com, things such as the Pokemon error guide.
Right.
I mean, we're going to have more error guides coming. The Pokemon collecting basics guide, which really serves especially those, like me, who don't know a ton about it, but want to continue to learn more.
Right.
These are, little touch points, but they're very impactful. So with that, I want to close on this, without giving away too much, because we're going to have lots of fun stuff to announce throughout the year, but just over a quarter into 2024, so much has already gone live and been accomplished. Looking at the roadmap for the rest of the year, which projects or efforts within each of your areas of focus are you really the most excited to lean into the rest of the way this year?
I hit on this a little bit before, but for me, I'm really excited about launching new categories altogether. And I think with pop culture, we're really just getting started. Like, we have a great start with TCG. TCG is growing like crazy, but how do we, reach all of the different collectible types that these customers are collecting? We know that a lot of, our customers aren't just collecting cards, but they also do have, different toys or games or other, kind of tangential categories that they want to grade with us too. And like, they like to have that alignment of like, everything's in a PSA holder. It all matches. It makes this kind of cohesive, display when you have your Marvel card and your Marvel Funko Pop and your Marvel, whatever other item, and like having it all be graded by PSA, I think makes us more of this one-stop shop. And I really want to get there where we can be like, kind of do it all in the pop culture space. And so that's something I'm really focused on. Even within WADA, we've had some exciting launches this year where we started doing DVD and Blu-ray grading. And so trying to make that more of like a total like media grading offering, I think is really exciting. We've already gotten some really cool DVDs and Blu-rays in for grading. And then we do have CDs actually coming later this month. So excited about that. And then, other categories I can't fully reveal yet, but definitely more to come, and a lot of growth in this area, which I'm excited about.
So I can finally grade my Kids Bop album.
You can.
I know. I'm excited. You know the story with that.
I feel like you want the Pokemon soundtrack.
I should have them. I need movie 3. I love Entei. So, but I'm really excited. Kind of, again, like I kind of touched on it before, to grow errors, continue to standardize those, put out, I really am excited to put out more guidance on our website and put more, more information in the hands of collectors. And, I think that that's really exciting for me. Expanding more categories, of course, test issue cards that are surfacing. It's always exciting. But yeah, I think like just expanding the knowledge base on my end, I'm just really excited to do that and put more things in writing and really expand Yu-Gi-Oh. I think like we've done a lot for Yu-Gi-Oh, just production copy stuff. But I think like expanding errors for Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh is just so fascinating to me because it just goes so much deeper, I think, than Pokemon at times. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into some of the niche things in Yu-Gi-Oh, I think. But it's bigger things coming on our end too that I'm excited for. But definitely.
You hit on it earlier, Elizabeth. You talked about how for a long time PSA was known as Professional Sports Authenticator, and as time has gone on, that acronym PSA has just become so much more category agnostic and genre agnostic. And the great work that you guys do is a big reason for that. And we're really excited to see it continue to grow the rest of this year. So just want to thank you guys both for taking the time to stop by today. And we'll do another check-in with you guys later in the year, because I know there's going to be plenty to update on.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. This has been another installment of Guest Submissions here on the PSA Pod. I'm Ryan Gruene, and we will talk to you again soon.